Man, welcome back, y'all. It's been a long time coming. Welcome to the Zone Media. Y'all know what we do. We collaborate because collaboration thrives creativity. And y'all know that we create because we're created by the creator. So I encourage you to create because you're created by the creator. Because we all are created by the creator. It's what we do. Welcome to the Zone, where we are big on giving you information, inspiration, motivation, and just allowing you a chance to hear from the best of the best and some people that are legends. Like today, we got, of course, Let's Talk with Robert Vaughn. I get a chance to really just talk with him about building a home studio. It's going to be super dope. I think this is going to be a really good conversation. I've had a home studio for about 10 years, um, and it's been a journey. I started making music when I was around 16, 17, and it's yeah, 10 years. The home studio I had 10 years ago was I used some stuff that it probably cost me maybe $20 to make. So I'm excited. I'm excited. So I'm gonna let Mr. Vaughn take over. And if y'all got any questions, definitely make sure y'all are dropping them in the chats. We're live on shout out to Facebook, um, YouTube, and Twitch. And then this one will also probably go up on YouTube as well. It's live on YouTube too. My bad, I forgot YouTube. I say YouTube. And shout out to Anchor for always putting us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other podcast services. So if you don't get a chance to listen to this live, you're probably listening to it not live.
All right.
Definitely check us out.
Okay. Well, we sort of came up with the subject because we have been getting a lot of questions and inquiries about home studios. And
Yeah.
people say, "Well, you say this and you say that, and how do I set up a studio? I don't have $5,000 or $10,000, and I would love to record in my home."
Really only need
Um,
a couple hundred.
yeah, I mean, you you can do it. You can do it pretty inexpensively. And the advantage of a home studio, I know I got one. I've had one for probably since almost maybe 8 years, maybe 8 years.
Mhm.
And the reason I got one is because I used to go to different studios, and I was spending so much money in the studios, it was ridiculous.
Mhm.
I'm working with this producer. I'm he's getting $60 an hour. Then I go to another studio up here to record some live instruments. I got to pay them, and then this guy's getting 60 or $80 an hour. And by the time I finish the song, I got quite a few $1,000s in the song just in production costs, which isn't that
Right.
unusual, but whenever you can save money, you want to save money. So what I started doing, I said, well, I'm in a home studio, and I'll do a lot of the initial uh, production and mixing. I can mix it. I learned how to mix. I said I can mix it, and then I'll take it to a bigger studio like a Zaria studio, what I call a real studio. You know, then I'll take it to a real studio to have them buff it out like your car. Put the polish on it and sort of dress it up and do the things that I can't do at home.
Right.
But the advantage of a home studio is that you can always make music anytime you get ready.
Right.
You know, and if you talk to, I've watched a lot of artists, and I always one thing that always interests me about artists is their creative journey. You know, and just about all the top artists, just about all of them started out with a studio, with a home studio.
Mhm.
Not all of them, but a lot of them start with a home studio because another advantage with a home studio is that you can produce music that is suitable for your voice
Right.
or music that is suitable for the way you play an instrument or the way you write. So that's certainly an advantage, and that's why it's so important to learn how to write music, and one of the best ways is to get a home studio.
Mhm.
I know, like Azaria said, you can set up a home studio for a few $100s. It
Use
doesn't
a
have to
hundred.
be an
That's all you
expense.
need.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't have to be an expensive undertaking. Some of the things that you need, what I call the essentials. You're going to need a computer, preferably a laptop, or a PC is fine, or a Mac. Most studios use Macs. They I don't know why, but most of them use Macs.
Well,
Um,
so
maybe
um,
you could, yeah,
part,
speak on that a little bit.
part of part of the reason why most studios use Macs is because of your converters. So what your converters are is what happens between the transition of sound from the transition of sound analogically to digitally. And it creates that connection that transfers and makes your sound that you're saying into the microphone digitally into the box, into the computer. And a lot of times your Mac converters and quality are a lot better. And that's really what Mac is like. Mac is a um, creative brand. They thrive off of creatives. Like a lot of creatives use their brands. And not saying PC isn't good. I'm not saying you can't use PC, but Mac is probably and definitely is the better um, source.
Better choice, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing about Mac too is that it's if you have a laptop, you have a desktop, and you have iPhone,
iPhone, iPad,
and you have an
all of them.
iPad, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you do at home. You can do on one of those instruments.
Or you can. It's easily transferring to
It's
each. You
transfer.
know,
Okay, okay. So if you want to mix a song and you're on a plane or you're away from home, you can take your iPad and kind of work on it a little bit. Um,
more or less. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So in addition to a computer, you need what's it called, DAW software, a digital audio workstation software. Pro Tools. A lot of people use Pro Tools. Some use Ableton.
As
Uh,
much as people don't want to believe it, it is the industry standard.
Pro Tools is, yeah,
Pro Tools is the industry standard.
right.
It may not be the best. People might not like it. It may not be the best audio recording
Mhm.
workstation. It may not be. However, what people need to realize is that it's the best. It's the best because it's what everybody uses
Yeah,
and it's easily transferable.
right. And one thing I found out though in Europe for some reason, um, people like Logic, and I think maybe the reason they do is because most of them started off on GarageBand. But
Mhm.
I've noticed a lot of people. I won't say the majority, but a lot of people in Europe use Logic, and I don't know if that's just a preference or not. But
Yeah.
I found Pro Tools and Logic to be very similar. In the way that you use them and things they can do. I don't know, Zari, do you know any major differences between Pro Tools and Logic? I mean,
Yeah. So I use both. I use
mm,
all
mm,
DAWs just about.
mm,
And Pro Tools there's a lot, and especially with the new Logic update, there's a lot of different features that Logic has now that Pro Tools doesn't. But I say Logic is used and could be used more for a songwriter that produces. Um, yes, you can record. Yes, you can get the stuff that you need to get out of Logic. However, I wouldn't say it is better than Pro Tools and recording. Recording specifically is aimed at Pro Tools because Pro Tools is literally functional for that. A
okay,
couple of the differences would be your MIDI capabilities. Logic is literally created for you to produce. Like that is legit you to do a full record in Logic. However, I've seen people do it. You know, we have people like Illmind who produces all his stuff in Pro Tools. And Illmind is one of the top producers in the world. And he produces everything in Pro Tools, but people say that Pro Tools doesn't have the best. MIDI capabilities, and it doesn't have this and that. So some really cool features, but they are similar in ways. However, the biggest difference is that Pro Tools is specific on, and their go-to is specifically audio, where Logic is more versatile and can do a multifaceted of things. But their focus, I would say, from what I've witnessed and from what I use it for, um, production,
Okay, okay. And then there's Ableton, which some people use.
more
Uh,
live, more live.
yeah, Ableton Live. And what's the one? I know the first one I had was called, was it? No, it wasn't Fruity Loops. What's another one?
Fruity
Uh,
Loops is one,
uh,
which I hate to record in Fruity Loops.
yeah, there was
It,
a.
it there's Cubase. Cubase is another one. Studio One is another one. Um, you have Nuendo, which is coming off of Steinberg, which is also a part of Cubase's Life brand. There's Reaper, which is one. You have Reason, which is another one. Waves has a recording software as well. Luna from Universal Audio, but you only can use Luna with a Universal Audio device, which is super weird. But nobody's really using it. I have heard mixed reviews on it. So there's softwares out, um, a ton of
And
recording softwares.
the nice thing about
Reaper is
Mac,
actually free too.
which one?
Reaper, I think Reaper is a free software, I believe.
Okay, okay, all right. One of the I'd say advantages when you buy a Mac, you already get GarageBand.
Always already get drugs, man.
It's already loaded into your Mac. If you got a Mac, it's even on my new iPhone, I think. So when you get a Mac,
Mm-hmm.
you have GarageBand, and GarageBand is sort of um, it's Logic is sort of an advanced GarageBand,
Yeah.
but you can produce music with GarageBand. Rihanna's first song, Umbrella, was produced in GarageBand. So,
Mm-hmm.
there've been not just her, but there've been people that have produced, full recordings in GarageBand. So if you have a Mac, you have GarageBand on the Mac. So that, I don't say that's a reason to buy a Mac, but because you
So really
probably.
quick,
Mhm,
just to correct myself,
mhm,
Reaper isn't free.
mhm.
However, it should be. Reaper is it's very cheap. So the discounted license is $60, and then the commercial license, which is if you're going to do any like big work or anything like that, then that's where you're going to use your commercial license, which is 225. So if you're going to do make money off of it, then you should get the commercial license. If you're just going to do it for yourself, you should get the discounted. Um, and they outline a lot of their stuff. You literally can go to Reaper.fm and check them out. You can go to yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to correct that and let people know like Reaper isn't free. However, um, it's basically free if you are an individual and not a studio. It's like $60,
Right. Yeah.
and
So the digital DAW software, digital audio workstation software, it would be my recommendation. If you got a Mac, start out with GarageBand and maybe move up to Logic. But at some point, you want to learn Pro Tools,
that's no point.
because just about any studio you go into is going to have Pro Tools as is what they use.
Yep.
Either Pro Tools or Logic. Most of the time, it'll be Pro Tools. Most producers can use either one. A good
And
producer should be able to use either one.
even if you don't know it,
Mhm,
or even if you don't use it, it's good to know it,
mhm.
um, because it's able to really you can transfer it over to both. Like you can transfer knowledge that you do in Pro Tools over to any other DAW. So that's
Yeah,
good. But like I said, you don't need the crazy. You can literally record off of FL Studio, which is like $99.
yeah.
You buy the 99 version.
FL Studio was the first one I had. That's what it was. FL Studio, long
Yeah,
time.
that's Fruity Loops.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Uh,
can literally record on that, which is like crazy to me. But they've advanced so much over the years. I remember when I started making beats. I started making beats on FL like 8, and now they're on FL 20. Uh, but I mean, FL 8 wasn't that long before FL 20, but it's just It's like, man, it's crazy how much from FL8 we've gotten advanced. So,
Right, right. Okay. So we established that we need a computer or a laptop, software, um, Logic, Pro Tools, FL Studio, whatever. And number three is you need an audio interface. What an interface is, the interface takes the signal from your microphone, and it's in addition to being a preamp, it feeds the signal into your computer. Did I get that right? Is that what
yep,
interface does?
yep,
It feeds a signal either from your microphone, your instrument, into the computer, and it acts as a preamp. Preamp is very important, particularly for vocals, because your vocal instrument is your weakest instrument. So you really some people, and that's why they have what's called USB mics, which
mm,
don't use a preamp and they go straight to the computer. And some of those are pretty good mics,
some of them.
but
Yep.
it won't be as good as going through an interface.
You
But
gotta
however,
you gotta look at you gotta look at it as like um if you're streaming, right? If you're streaming audio or you're listening to it on a Bluetooth or something like that, it's losing quality because it's not going through the right converters. Let's say you take an audio file and you're listening to it through something. It's like, man, like this sounds like crap. However, what what an audio interface does for to break it down into the lamest term that we can is it takes something that is blurry and makes it sharp and makes it crystal clear and allows it not to be blurry anymore. It makes the sound very crisp, clean, and upfront and open so that you can actually hear what you need to hear about from and through the sound.
okay, all right. So various different interfaces. I know the interface got originally, and I still have, was a Focusrite uh, 2i2,
Yeah,
which is
Scarlett's have a
basically a
lot.
Scarlet. Yeah, a lot of people use this. I mean, I was amazed that people still buy this interface,
The
but it's
converters aren't the converters in that aren't that good. However, to
hmm
get started,
hmm
those have Focusrite itself has amazing preamps, um,
hmm
and not a lot of interfaces have them. Even you get a higher end interface like the it is just the converters and the Focusrite aren't that good, but the preamps in that is amazing. So
yeah. And the reason I got it, it was $150, and I think it's
mm,
still
I
about
think they're cheap.
150.
I think they're cheaper now. The
Yeah.
solos are like I think the solos are like 120, 100. If that
Yeah. But
catch a sale.
it's a good. You don't have to spend now. You can spend a lot of money for an interface,
Hmm.
but just starting out. I think with two inputs. One for say you can get two mics going in or a mic and an instrument. I think the 2i2 was a good choice.
Uh,
When I first got mine, I was looking for something cheap, inexpensive, not cheap, but inexpensive. And so the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 was a good choice.
right.
There a lot of different interfaces you can get, but I think this is a good one for the price. Next is headphones. You want to definitely get some headphones, a decent set of headphones, because you can't produce and you can't create if you can't hear. So it's important that you be able to hear what you're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, on your speakers or monitors, you don't quite hear everything like you would with a set of headphones. Would you agree with that, Azari?
Right. Uh, so yes and no.
Yeah, okay. And I'm one to say that because when I usually mix, I usually use my monitors to mix. I don't usually like to use
Mm,
headphones.
yeah, I
And
I'd switch back and forth.
switch, okay.
And part of the reason why I do that is because where do people sometimes I even mix on my computer monitors, on my
hmm
computer speakers,
hmm
because I think about like, hey, where do people usually listen to music at?
Yeah, they
And
usually
if
listen.
I'm
Yeah,
mixing, they usually listen. You either listening to it on your phone,
or in the
you're
car.
listening to it in the car, or you're
Hmm.
listening to it on a computer. Like you're not gonna listen to it. Let's be real. We're not listening to music unless we're in the studio on studio monitors.
Stereo
So you're
monitors.
not going to get the clean, crisp sound unless. So that's why I mix on
Hmm.
computer speakers because if I make it sound good on computer speakers, if I make it sound good on the phone, if I make it sound good in the car, a lot of times I go in the car, I plug in and I mix in the car, and it just creates a sound where people are like, oh, this sounds
Hmm.
good in the car because that's where most people are listening to music.
Yeah, that's where
So
most. I think most people do listen to music in the car. I think that's a fact. Yep.
I say get you an aux cord, get you some headphones,
Yep.
and I even mix on these on my AirPods. Like I literally will throw the AirPods in and I'll mix on the AirPods.
Hmm.
Not, of course, it wouldn't be the ideal for people, but I mean, I literally do this. This is what I do for a living now, and it's like I make mixes sound amazing on
Okay.
AirPods because that's where people listen to music at. So it's
Okay.
just
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
depending on where you listen.
Studio monitors or
Yep,
speakers. You need a couple of good monitors because I have a set of Yamahas. I'm not sure what the model is, but they were a couple
they're
hundred.
the HS50s.
HS50s, right? Yeah.
You either got the HS50 or the HS5s.
Yeah. The 50s. So that's what it is. The 50s.
Okay.
And I mean, they're good monitors, when I bought them, I went to Sam Ash and they have the listening room and they have about 50 different sets of monitors.
Hmm.
And I said, I want to spend less than $300 per speaker, and I want to get the best speaker I can in that price range. And this is what I came up with, and I've
Right.
been very satisfied with them.
It's good.
And next, you're going to need some microphone cables. You'll need a microphone stand. Um, you need what's called a pop filter. A pop filter is a little screen that goes in front of your microphone that takes that sound out, and it takes um, when you pronounce
Your
things,
P's, your B's, and your S's.
your P's, B's, and that's okay. That's a good way to put it. Yep. And in addition to the pop filter, you're going to need a microphone, and you're going to need what's called a vocal reflector. A vocal reflector is something that you put around the mic, which isolates the sound to right where the mic is. And it's kind of shaped, it's kind of U shaped, and it goes around the mic, and you sing into it, and it keeps the other sound away. So it isolates the sound from the microphone, which is what you want to do, particularly if you don't have a vocal booth. If you have a vocal booth, which most people don't at home, you want to get you a decent what's called a vocal reflector, and they are pretty good, believe it or not. I mean, they're pretty good at isolating sound. So
Hmm.
and they've gotten more sophisticated now, so you can kind of put your mic in there and get in there and sing, and you don't get too much interference. You don't get any if you do it right. Microphones, basically, you have what's called the USB mic,
Hmm.
which plugs into the computer, and then you have your standard mic, which goes through the interface. You definitely want to get a mic that goes through the interface because you're going to get better sound. And as you get a little more sophisticated at production, a USB mic is not going to give you what you need to get. Um, Different types of mics. You have condenser mics, dynamic mics, ribbon mics, um, USB mics, and also stereo mics. And I think condenser mics, um, great for recording. Ribbon mics, great for recording. Um, what's your thing on that, Zeri? I've always had a preference for condenser or either ribbon mics.
No, I mean, if you're recording, I would say that is a necessity. It's not just it's a necessity to have a condenser.
Condenser mic.
Um,
Okay, okay,
yep,
okay.
yep, and make sure it's. I would even go as far as to say omnidirectional mic, the
Okay.
omnidirectional
Hmm.
condenser mic, because
Okay.
you get that chance to, you don't know which side to use. So that gives you that chance to use any side if it's a omnidirectional. Which then like I also like my favorite is always a tube tube condenser, but that's where you get into getting charging a little bit extra than what you would probably
Okay.
be wanting to pay if you're doing a home studio.
Okay. So basically, omnidirectional will pick up sound. You don't have to be straight on when you sing it to the mic. If you're a little to the
Correct.
side, it's still going to pick up the sound. If you're a little to that side, a directional mic just picks up sound directly in front of it. And you use a directional mic if you want to, what, maybe mic a drum kit or something.
Say that again.
If you want to mic a drum, you'd probably use a directional mic for something like that.
Yeah, so there's specific mics that are set for drums, and your overheads are usually your omnidirectional, but then your direct like kick mic or your snare mic, most of those.
Okay. Um, okay. You have mics for vocals, a different mic for acoustic guitars, mics for electric guitar, mics for drums, a different mic for bass. So you'll get into that a little more once you get started.
Right.
Another thing that's important with a home studio or any studio is your acoustics. For instance, when I put my studio in, I have a room in the basement that I put it in, and what I did was I put a sound absorbing material behind the drywall all the way around, and I have sound absorbing material in the ceiling. So it's pretty isolated and it's very quiet down here. So you wanna really soundproof your area that you record in, and you want to have for instance, I have some sound deadening material that's sort of hanging off the wall, and it's disguised as decoration, but really it's to absorb sound.
Right.
So Azaria actually constructed it for me because he builds high-end studios in addition to home studios.
That's
So
what I do.
this
That's what they tell me.
this is something that you would find in a high-end studio. So I said, well, I don't have a high-end studio, but I can have some high-end stuff in here. So yeah. Another thing is bass traps. Um, a bass trap are good at bass traps are good at filtering bass or getting the bass sound, absorbing the bass sound
Mhm.
or the low end, you know.
Yep.
And especially if you have a smaller room, you want to think about some sort of a bass trap. They have what's called absorbers, which is basically foam. And that those are excellent bass traps, which you can put around the room, and it kind of will absorb that bass sound. Also, acoustic panels. And you want to put some around the room. Um, you
And
know,
it's important if you're going to do that, do your research on your dimensions.
mhm,
Um, so a lot of people will just get up there and they like I just came from a studio and I'm not gonna drop any names or say anything, but I literally just left a studio where they literally just had the panels up and it was randomly placed.
mhm.
They weren't well put together. I don't know what they filled the panels with. It looked bad and it sounded bad. And I really need people. And this is a professional studio that charges money for people to come in and record. This isn't a home studio. So I really want to hit on the fact that listen, if you're going to do your sound, like that is one of the most key things you can do. Make sure that your sound acoustics are right. If you want to go get foam, but just make sure you have enough foam and it's set up and it looks good. Like you don't want just to throw you just throwing it up there just to throw it up there. Let's actually make things look good and not just throw things around and say that we got a studio, so we got absorption up there, so we're doing things the right way. Like, let's actually do the right thing and let's put things together the right way. Don't just take material, cut it the wrong way, and then make people think, oh yeah, this is sound panels, this is what they look like. No, they look like crap. That's exactly what they look like.
That's what it
So
sounds like too.
it sounds like crap, it looks like crap, and it is crap. You don't need to charge people money to come to your studio. You need to charge people. People need to charge you for you to go to their
Coming in
studio.
there. Yep, and studio.
I'm sorry. I get passionate about this. Like,
No, no, yeah, yeah. Studio construction is probably one of the most important things when it comes to recording music. You know, a studio should have it should be isolated from any vibration, which means that you have to have the floor should be sort of floating on foam, so your floor you don't get vibration from the building or from a car from the outside. So your floor has to be isolated, the floor of the studio from the floor of the building. And I guess you do that by setting it on what rubber mounts, Zaria, or
so there's a few different ways you can. So you set it on rubber mounts, but then you also you make a floor on top of the floor. So you
make a
put
floor.
a lot of people put sound isolation under or on top of the bottom of the floor, the base. A lot of
Mhm.
times they rip up the carpet, they rip up the bottom if it's a building that they already bought that they didn't build, and then
Mhm.
they put the isolation down, and then they put like the rubber padding or whatever it is, and then they put the flooring on top of that.
Top of that.
They make sure it's solid and make sure it's not anything that's going to break through. Like again, you don't put tape on the floor to make sure that the tape is the floor is taped right. Like you can't step. I'm telling you, I've been to some studios and it's like, why am I stepping on a floor with electrical tape and little pads on the floor that when I step, it's lifting me up? Like, no, I shouldn't be lifted up when I make a step. I should be able to walk flat and it
Right,
should look aesthetically pleasing.
right, right.
The other
And
thing with
mhm.
flooring is that you don't want you want to have some type of absorption on your flooring. Like a lot of people just say, "Oh, I want these nice little tiles," and that's cute. But
Mhm.
what happens is your sound is now reflecting from the bottom to the top because you don't have any absorption on your ceiling and you don't have any absorption on your floor. You don't have no carpet. You don't have anything. Your sound is bouncing up and down, and now you're not getting an accurate sound.
Right, right, right. And even in a home studio, you want to make sure that you have carpet on the
And
floor.
here's the thing, even in the home, you don't have to buy panels. You don't have to like ideally, you don't have to buy panels. You don't have to buy foam absorption. You don't have to buy any of that. If you're on a budget, put your bed. If your studio's in your bedroom, that's absorption. Put little. You got blankets. There's blankets you can put up. Then you can make it look nice. Like do something that like understand that there is things in your house that you have laying around that can absorb sound that will make your room sound good. I look at like your space. Your couch is absorbing sound. Your
Mhm.
chair is absorbing sound. Your carpet is absorbing sound.
Mhm.
You absorb sound. Like these things matter. So
Right. And the thing is you get a different sound when you record in a room, depending on where you record. So I've always tried to record near the middle of the room, because if you do get some reflection, it should come from each wall about the same. But
yeah,
like
I mean it
Azari
all.
said, if you
Yeah,
want to, ideally you want to not get any reflection from the wall, and that's why you use, acoustic panels. And so the sound, when it hits the wall or the ceiling or the floor, it doesn't come back; it stays there.
if you
Because
don't have a treated room, make sure you're recording in the middle of your room, if
at
at
middle.
all possible, or somewhere where you have major absorption. So you don't want reflection coming from your mic. And I mean, you're going to get it if you record in the middle of the room, but it's better for you to do that than to record on a wall that's completely reflecting back and forth.
Hmm.
So yeah, I always recommend that. And you can always make your own absorption. I keep telling you, you have blankets, you have tiles, you have stuff laying
Hmm.
around in your house. Make your own absorption.
I
Things
know one of
absorb
the one
sound.
of the first studios I went in Detroit was their vocal booth. had carpet on the top and on the sides, and it actually produced some pretty good sound because when
Hmm.
you went in a vocal booth, the carpet absorbed all the sound other than what went into the mic. Now, that was sort of a crude way of doing it, but like you say, it was effective, you know,
Right.
because it kept the sound from bouncing around.
Yep.
Um, okay, yeah, and also you want to have what's called on your monitor. You want to put isolation pads under your monitor, so your monitor gives you the actual sound that's coming out of the computer, and it's not vibrating on the desk, and it's not,
Right.
giving you, sound that was going to interfere with your record. And then
I know people are probably saying like, y'all telling me all this stuff. Y'all need to not tell us that this is gonna be cheap and you telling us to buy all this stuff. Here's the thing. You can make sure that your speakers are isolated and you can make sure that your speakers are not vibrating or connected to your desk by you just getting some you got things that make speaker stands.
mhm,
I have on my speaker stands for me are I have a regular set of speaker stands for my home studio, and then I have some some shelves, some bookcases that I got from Target for like $30 each or
mhm,
something like that. And then I put those on top of there, and I had foam just laying around, so I put the foam underneath that, and it's creating a speaker stand. It's like, come on, people! Like, there's things makeshift, DIY. YouTube teaches you how to make speaker stands for $20. Probably cheaper than that.
well,
Make
my
your own.
monitor my monitor isolation pads cost about $8 a piece.
Let's do better, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's
And
not
then
not very expensive,
and
but it
then
makes a big difference in the sound.
and then
Mhm.
the other thing, the last thing that I would say is make sure that you understand the areas and your measurements. So understand that a general listening position in a room is 38% of the room. So if your room is 10 feet, I'm building a studio right now, and the rooms are 10 by 10. So wherever I'm positioned, I have to make sure that my listening position is around 3.3 feet, around 3, almost 4 feet, to have a ideal and perfect listening position for that room. But if you don't know, if you don't know that, if you don't do your research about where you should be placing, how many panels, where your panels should be placed, how do they do this? What is a diffuser? How do I make a diffuser? What are panels? What is absorption? Where should absorption be? How should I do this? If you just throw things together and again just put stuff up just because you feel like it's what you need to do, you're not going to get the best of the best, and you're just going to be throwing stuff together, and you're going to be mad because your studio don't sound like you need to sound. It'll sound nice to you, and then somebody comes in and like me and says that's crap.
Yeah, and
It looks crap. It sounds like crap. It is crap.
yeah,
If it walks like a duck, sounds like a duck. What is it?
it's a duck. And you can get some good sound out of home studios. I mean, there's a lot
Right.
of hit records that started off in home studios. So you can get some pretty good sound out of home studios. And the advantage, I think the real advantage of a home studio is that whenever you get inspired to do some music, you can go down and do it. Because sometimes I can't go to sleep, and I may be up at 3 in the morning, and I say, oh man, I got this crazy beat that I heard in church. Let me go put that down.
Right.
And if you got a studio, you can go put it down while it's on your mind.
Right.
And it can be your creative space. And I think a lot of times when you create, you need a space that you can go to that's separate from other spaces, where
Right.
you can kind of create and you got that creative vibe going. And you'll most more times than not make better music when you have a dedicated area, like a home studio set up to do your creativity. A lot of younger people, the home studio is the bedroom. The
Hmm.
size of the bedroom. And like you say, a bed mattress is a great absorption of sound.
It's
Blankets are
amazing.
great, great absorption of sound. I guess that's why so many studios start out in the bedroom. Uh,
I think like the thing that I would say, as much money that you'll pour into a home studio, think about that compared to how much money you actually would be putting into if you went and recorded all these songs by yourself in the studio and you paid your hourly rate. Like I know I charge 50 an hour. And I'm not knocking off that, but I just charge 50 an hour just to record. I don't charge 50 an hour to mix. I don't charge 50 an hour for anything else. That's just for recording time. If I mix it in session, I'm nice. Most engineers are not. So you're paying 50 an hour for me to sit here and press a button to make sure you record it right. So that then you can also pay me 75 to 150 per song to then mix the song, plus between 50 to 75 to master. And honestly, I wouldn't even recommend you send it to me to master. I say you send it out, which they're probably going to charge you around 75 to 100 to master. So like, think about that. That's per song, where you can just record it yourself and then just send it to me to pay for a mix.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's what I would do a lot of times. I would initially, if I had an artist, we maybe create the song, on piano. I had an artist that liked to play piano. So we would do a lot of our songs on piano. And then when I would get them on piano and I get what I wanted and I'd record it and get a pretty good recording, I would usually send it to the studio in Manhattan, Miratone Studio, where I used to go a lot. And he, Roman, he plays every instrument. So I'd say, well, go ahead and add the live instruments, and I'll be up in 3 weeks and we'll have her do the vocals in your studio. And see, the nice thing about that, he already has a song, he knows the melody, he knows the key that it's in. So his job gets a lot easier. And of course, he's going to change a few things. And, I'm sure the same thing as Zaria does. And, you try to make it better. He'd always ask me, say, do you want a perfect song or do you want a hit? And of course, you want a hit. So you have to kind of let the producer do his thing. So he'll make the song better. But see, that's the advantage of a home studio. Now, if I had to go in there and do all that in his studio, and his studio is 125 an hour because it's in Manhattan, and that's just what the going rate is. I couldn't stay in there for 3 or 4 days. I mean, you could, but it's a lot of money.
Right.
So if you can do all of that at home, then you could send it up to him and let him work on it ahead of time, and he'll give you a flat rate. Say, okay, I'll do this for $1,500, you
Right.
know, and just come up and do the vocals. So that's a pretty good deal. Whereas if you had to go up there all week and do a lot of stuff I did, it would be a lot more money. So that is one advantage of a home studio. And when you and I think producers appreciate it too when you come in with a complete song, because it gives them a framework and they kind of know where you're vibing at.
And
And
honestly,
you rather do it from
I'm
scratch?
no, I was going to say I would like for people to also come in. Like I love when people come in with their stuff done. And I was going to say that I'm gonna probably get kicked in the butt for this, but I honestly don't care. Because this is the zone, and I say what I want because it's my show. But like honestly, I love when people come in that know what they're doing and have everything already recorded, and it really doesn't matter if you're trash or not, because at that point, all you're doing at this point is paying me, and I don't have to listen to you garbagely record things. So it's like, hey, like okay, I can just mix. That's great. Now I can make your song sound amazing, and I don't have to sit here and dread through that. And that's just honest. Like I have engineers and producers that listen to this, and it's like, yo, like let's talk about the real. The real is some artists are not good. However, those artists, you can make those artists and you can help make those artists better. But the way you do that is not by sitting and just not telling them anything. It's hard. It is hard for me to sit through a session and not say something. So if something sounds off, I'm going to tell you because this is just me and that's my personality. That's why the clients that I have come back to me. And for anybody that's watching this or listening to this, I would definitely say like, yes, if you're an artist and you think that you're the best and anybody hasn't told you, 9 times out of 10, if you have not started, now don't get me wrong, I've heard some great artists. It helps you develop, having a home studio helps you develop your sound so that it sounds better when you bring it to people like me. Because you now have free access to record whenever you want. That's practicing, that's honing in on your craft. It makes you better. So I suggest, I recommend, I push every and any artist to get a home setup, even if it's the smallest. Get your own situation because it makes you better as an artist. It makes you better as an individual, as in your craft. And then when you come to the studio, you already got it down locked and you're ready to go. And you're not wasting my time.
And it
And you're
forces
not
you,
wasting your time.
yeah, it forces you to learn how to write songs.
Yep.
And I tell you, if you could look on Billboard and you take the top 20 Billboard, I guarantee you 18 or 19 of them write their own songs.
Right. Yep.
Because nobody knows your voice like you. Nobody plays piano like you. And what happens is over a period of time, you kind of learn what to do to your particular voice to get the sound that you want. Like
Right.
sometimes I know when I record a vocal, I think I put compression on everything.
Hmm.
I put a little reverb on everything,
Right.
and I use the equalizer to sort of get the quality of voice that sounds good to me. Now, the person singing, they may want a little different quality to their voice. So that's the advantage of having home studios. You can have certain settings that you use, and when you record, you can say, you can go into the studio and say, hey, you know what, I had a couple different levels of compression here. I had the rack compressor, then I put a little more compression in the mix, and you can kind of give the producer an idea of what to do to get the particular vocal quality that you like.
It
uh,
makes the producer's job easier. And if you ever make if you make the engineer's job easier, then 9 times out of 10, that engineer is going to invest more into that project because they don't have to put as much work in off the front end.
and the song is going to sound a lot better too,
Exactly. Yep.
because you eventually, if you're a vocalist, you'll get to know your own voice, and you have certain presets, like, and that's the way it is if you work with the same vocalist all the time. You already know what the presets are. You say, okay, I got to put this here. I need this is what I did with the equalizer last time, because you can save all that stuff, and this is what this is how much compression we had on it. This is what we did here, and I found that mixing is so important. I think engineers and producers, the mix is where the song, in my opinion, is really made or lost. Because if a song is mixed very well, then there's not a whole lot you have to do in the master. If a song is not mixed as well as it should be, then a lot of times you have to try to clean up things in the master. So if you have your home studio, which one of the first things you're going to learn how to do is how to mix your own voice.
Hmm.
And how loud do I want this? What kind of quality do I want here? You know, and so when you do go into a studio, you'll be able to get to where you want to go a lot quicker.
Right.
And then after you get it mixed and you get a professional mix from a producer, the master is it's going to be a piece of cake.
All right.
Uh,
Man.
now pricing, we'll go over this real quick. You can get a studio. I'm looking here. This is Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, a microphone, and a pair of headphones from Sweetwater for $269 or $8 a month.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You can add a studio monitor to that, a couple studio monitors to that, or you can, here's here's one for somebody that plays guitar. Uh, this is a guitar recording microphone, bundle regular microphone, ISO booth, a ribbon mic, a dynamic mic for the guitar, and cables for $529 or $15 a month.
Right.
So if you play and you record guitar and you kind of do all your songs by guitar, you like to play acoustic, you know, $15 a month or $529, you can have that. And I think Azaria, here's another Focusrite for 364. where you have the same thing you had before, and you get a couple of monitors, and you know, it's cheap. You know,
Yeah.
it's cheap.
And I mean, there's two ways we can really go about it. You can go the bundle route, which is probably one of the best routes to go in general, because especially if you're just starting out and you don't know what to get. But for those people that do know equipment, and are like, oh, I want to get this, and I want to get that, and I want to get that, the for the best bang for your buck, you can create a recording studio for $500 or less.
Mhm.
You're looking at about 150 bucks per speaker. I would give you $300 for your HS fives, or you can get the JBL 305s, which are I recommend the JBL 305s to anybody, because they give you that bass heavy that people love from KRK, but it also gives you that crisp, clean, high end that people love to hear in their vocals. It just gives you a perfect blend. For me, I can hear all three levels. I can hear my highs, I can hear my mids, and I can hear my lows. So I would recommend getting those. They run anywhere between 120 to 150, depending on what size you want to get. They also go up to like 200 or so. But I would recommend getting for home studio. It's a 5-inch cone, which will run you about 120 per speaker. You're up to 240. If this is if you have a computer. If you don't have a computer, it's probably going to run you a little bit more. But again, if you understand sound, if you understand quality, if you understand engineering, if you understand the work, then this will be important. Um, but let's say you already have your computer and you're not counting that into your budget price. Then you also want to get a desk. Important to get a desk, and you can just get a desk in a desk table, anything of that nature. You can probably get one for about $100, and now you're up to about 340. What do you need next? You need an interface. And there is an amazing interface by M Audio. It's called the M Audio 2 track, if I'm not mistaken. It's $100. Um, Gives you amazing quality. It has amazing preamps. It has amazing converters. It gives you a cheap. It's a cheap version of what the high end home studios have with the Apollo Twin. Now you're up to what did I say, 340. Now you're up to 440, and your last purchase now is your mic cable and your headphones. You can get headphones for $25, decent headphones for $25 from Guitar Center. Get your cords and get your adapters. You're at $500.
Mhm. Now, what
Home
about
studio for
a
five
mic?
hundred
Do
bucks.
we get a mic in there?
This is so that was for producers. Uh, if you are a somebody that wants to record yourself, which a lot of people do, you can get a nice $100 mic. The Rode, I gotta remember the name of it. The Rode. Um, Rode. It is the. Give me a sec. Make sure I get the name right. I don't want to give y'all wrong information. It's an amazing mic though.
Road.
Um, and it's not. It's very inexpensive. It's one of their condenser mics. It is a condenser mic. Um, yes, I don't
There's
believe
one
it's on air.
800 BM 800.
What's that? The Rode.
Yeah, it's 129 bucks.
That might be it.
Yeah, it's 100, and it's a great mic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if you want to get a little extra bang for your buck, for a couple extra dollars, you can get the Rode NT1A. Um, and I think the NT1A is like 200 bucks. Um, I believe it might be a little bit more. Yeah, it's about 200 bucks. So you get that, and you're good to go.
Okay. Um, Another mic is a Sterling Audio ST55. That's less than a couple $100. That's a great mic. Um, And see, a lot of these things you get on sale. You know, you check around, you go to Sweetwater, which is on the web, you go to Sam Ash, you go to Guitar Center, and a lot of times you check around, you can find, you know, you can find a $500 mic sometimes for 189 bucks, you know, or you can find a $300 mic for, you know, 99.99. You know, if it's one that they want to move, and it's a good mic, you know, you can save money. So, um, you know, one of the things you'll learn about getting equipment is, um, to find the sales, find out where they're having sales, and find out where you can buy it cheap. And best place that I know to shop is on the internet. What do you think about that, Azari?
No, I agree. I
Yeah,
completely agree.
yep, yep. So there you have it. You know, and like Azaria said, you can, you know, you can buy each item separately, or they have kits. They have recording kits where you can get everything in one kit. And what I would suggest, you know, is when you get ready to do your home studio, is to do your homework, do a little investigation, do some research on the web. Uh,
Listen, call me. I'll
call.
consult.
All right.
I'll do a consultation for you. $50 an hour. I got you.
Yeah, you may save more than 50 when you get to the store. Because if you go into the store, they get paid on commission, so they're gonna, you know, they're gonna make some commission on you if they can. And you know, you want to definitely have someone uh, that you can consult with, or someone that you know and you trust that can help you navigate this. But you know, like I say, you can, you know, you can get a home studio for not a whole lot of money, and you can be on your way to making music. And it's really important now, you know, with you know, being sort of locked down, you know, with the coronavirus. It looks like we might be locked down again, you know, because you can be inside making music, man. You can come out in October, November, and you know, have 15 or 20 songs. You
Right.
know, yeah. So a lot of advantages to having a home studio, and one of the biggest, I think, benefits is the fact that you learn how to record your own voice, and you learn how to record music, and you learn how to write songs, you know, and you kind of learn your way around the studio. And that's really important if this is something that you're going to do, that you plan on doing for the rest of your life. You definitely want to start out with a home studio. And if it's something that you like doing for fun, I mean, that's cool too. You know, a lot of people just like to, you know, record music for fun, which is okay, you know. So, but yeah, that's about it, I think.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that I mean, good stuff. Like this is good, and I love what we do here because we're providing information, and we're not sugarcoating it. Like this is what it is. People need to hear the real, uncut, raw version of all of this to know like you can you got we got to do better. We got to do better because if we do better, then we'll be better. So it's time to do better.
yep.
Don't be out here just throwing together panels. Actually, do it the right way, and make sure your home studio looks decent. So,
And don't go broke in the studio trying to get a hit.
man, listen, I'm
Keep
telling
your
you,
home
record
studio.
yourself
Yeah, record
and then
yourself.
send it to me to mix.
Yeah, that's what you
I won't
do.
break your bank.
And
I'll
get
just
in
charge you
there,
a couple $100. That's it.
get in there, and lay your vocal track down for a couple hours, you know, or whatever, and you know, keep it moving. You know.
And you're in the comfort of your own home, and you get to take your time.
Mhm.
You're not fighting a clock. So man, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening. I've been getting some dope feedback from people that have been watching. This show specifically has been insightful. We're going to be adding a few other shows coming in the next few weeks. I know Robert Vaughn has a show that he's going to be starting soon. I have a few DJs that'll be spinning throughout the day just to create some atmosphere, to create some vibes. I got a couple other people that'll be joining the team and having shows. So we are really going to really push some great things. But it's been a journey, and we not going anywhere but up. So thank you all for supporting. Thank you all for
Yeah,
tapping
thanks.
into
Yeah,
the zone
yeah.
and really being a part of the zone team. I'm excited for where we're going. Shout out to Robert Vaughn. this show
Right.
is dope. It was his idea. It was like, man, like we really need to share the music business with people. And it's just been blowing up ever since. So continue to share it. Tell your mama to tap in. And y'all know why we do it, man. We do this because collaboration thrives creativity, and we create because we're created by the creator. Love y'all always. Check us out next Monday, 7 p.m. Peace.
All right. Thanks.